Hi, everybody. I'm Wendy Murdoch, and this is Webinars with Wendy. I have been doing a series of webinars now for 3 years, coming up in March. Tonight, my guest is Catherine Winter, and she's going to talk about air vests. And I just want you to know that this webinar is brought to you by the Hay Soaker. Are you tired of the drudgery and mess of soaking hay? The Hay Soaker makes soaking hay convenient, easy, and hassle-free. And by the way, I just put up a testimonial from one of our customers, and she just loves her soaker. So to get more information, go to thehaysoaker.com. That's thehaysoaker.com to learn more. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about air vests, and I'm really excited about this because, you know, I've hit that age where I'm going back on safari and I'm thinking, you know, it might be time for me to get one of those to go out there. So Catherine, please tell everybody a little bit about your background, and then we'll let you roll right into your topic.
Sure, perfect, thanks. So yeah, I've been a rider at this point for way longer than I haven't, longer than I care to admit. My background is primarily as a hunter jumper rider, but I've dabbled in a little bit of everything. I've evented a little bit. My bucket list is to go on safari on horseback, so I'm very jealous. Very jealous.
You could do that with Muskoka. It's much better.
Yeah, no, I would definitely love to do that. But a few years ago, when I decided to redabble in eventing as an adult, I needed a vest, and I have a pretty analytical mindset. I was looking for data and trying to research, you know, did I need a body protector? Did I need an air vest? Did I need both? You know, what was right for me? And I just really felt like I was struggling to get the information that I needed to make an informed decision for myself. And, you know, fast forward to where we are today, I started a company really to address my own needs and have been blessed enough to now help a lot of people find the best safety equipment for themselves.
So what were you doing before this?
So I had a corporate life, which is hard to believe now, but I worked for big multinational corporations like IBM and Intel, and got to travel the world and do all kinds of fun stuff. And riding was kind of my outlet. And now I'm just really happy that I get to, you know, work in the community that I love and really be around, you know, crazy horse people all the time.
Oh, that's really awesome. I just assumed that you'd been doing this business a long time. So how long have you been doing this?
Let's see, we're going on year 3.
Really? Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
We're still pretty new.
When I met you, because I met you at Upperville, and yes, I would have thought that you had been there every year for the past 20 years. And not that you're that old. You know, it just had
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Great
on multiple counts.
Yeah. Wow. Good for you. Go for it.
Thanks. So it's been a really fun journey. The trajectory's been great, and it's just been exceptionally rewarding because we get phone calls all the time. You know, we get to help people, but we get a lot of those phone calls of I fell and I'm talking to you. You know, I didn't get hurt, or it could have been really bad, but it wasn't. So that's just been really rewarding.
Yep. So tell us what your company is.
So my company, I guess that's a little bit important. We're called RideEquiSafe. So we specialize in air vests, body protectors, safety stirrups, and helmets. And we do now carry a good bit of clothing too, because we absolutely want you to be safe, but we want you to be stylish too. So we have a little bit of everything for everyone at this point, but for sure our biggest thing that we lead with is safety equipment. That's what we specialize in.
All right. So you decided you needed a safety vest, and what happened then? How did we get from wanting a safety vest to being the person to call when I want to know how to fit one? You have been recommended by several people, which is why we're having this conversation.
Yeah, which is great. So it went from me first borrowing my trainer's wife's vest to go schooling and whatnot. So I ride with Doug Payne and his wife Jessica. So I was borrowing Jess's vest to go schooling, and I was like, well, if I'm going to compete, I should probably go get my own, and was trying to research and was struggling, and just happened to be the time of year that Land Rover was coming up. And if anybody has not been to Land Rover, make that a bucket list, because the shopping at Land Rover is just absolutely epic.
Forget the riding, go for the shopping.
And that's kind of what happened. Is I went to Land Rover purely to go to the trade fair. Really more so to research than to shop per se. I just wanted to learn, because I knew that all of the suppliers, or at least a large number of suppliers of safety equipment, would be there. And so I'd be able to talk to a lot of people and really get a bunch of different perspectives and get fitted and so on and so forth. So, so that was my purpose in going, and that's what I did. But I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know what I should be looking for. So, literally I walked into a booth and I was like, I need maximum bounce. I need to inflate. I need to be able to get run over, to get stepped on, to get kicked. I need to be able to fall, on a telephone pole and get drug across a table. I mean, I made it seem like I was going through the zombie apocalypse. And they looked at me and they're like, so what are you, 4-star, 5-star? And I'm like, beginner, novice. And they're like, really? I'm like, no, I'm completely serious. So, I walked out with a really fabulous vest, but probably not what I actually needed. It was overkill for sure, but I felt like I wasn't going to die, which was great. But there was nobody there to tell me you really don't need this based on what you're doing. So that was a great learning experience, and that kind of stuck in my head. But as I said, I'm a hunter jumper rider by background, and fast forward a couple years from that, we had some high profile accidents. And I think the hunter jumper riders really started paying attention that really good riders and very well liked riders were getting hurt. And that's where you started seeing, the air vest become much more widely used among the hunter jumper set. And you started seeing the investment from that community. And that's what really, I think, propelled me to start the business, because people were, making the decisions to buy this equipment with still not a lot of great information out there. And so that was kind of the impetus. I was like, all right, I think now's the time.
So how long have the air vests been around?
So the air vests have been around for actually a good long while. I mean, they started on the motorcycle side, and they kind of got adapted over to the equestrians from the motorcycle side. And now we're actually starting to see some enter the market that were designed as equestrian products from the beginning versus being adapted. So, we've seen equestrians using them for about 10 years or so now. So they've been around a good bit, but we're just now starting to see some real innovation that is for equestrian specific use, which is really nice to see.
Right. And yeah, because I can remember seeing some and I was kind of like, okay.
Yeah. It's like, are you getting on a motorcycle or are you getting on a horse?
What is that for?
Yeah.
And with that, I'm sure that there are more choices all the time.
Absolutely. For sure, there are more choices. And I think, that's one of the things that I've really chosen to focus on, is to carry as broad of a selection as possible. Just because I didn't want to ever feel like I only had one or two things, and that a client felt like they were being pushed into the one or two things that I had to offer. And because now there are so many options on the market, I can get really specific about fit, because for an air vest or a body protector, it's just like a helmet. The better something fits, the better job it's going to do at protecting you.
Right.
And I have some that are better for people that are short torsoed versus long torsoed versus pear shaped versus if I've got a woman that is maybe bigger chested. I can get really specific about not just dimensions, but also body type. And so having access to as many different types of vests as possible is really helpful, because then I can get really particular about how I'm fitting someone.
Well, and that you bring up such a good point there, because I'm literally 4 centimeters shorter in my waist than average person. And like when I went to Equiton, I have this beautiful hunt coat I absolutely love. It had to be custom made. I walked into her shop and she shook her head like, is there something wrong? And it was like, I have nothing here that will fit you. So she had to make it and ship it over to me. So I
Yeah.
know that drama of the body type, that it's like,
Right.
no, all jackets have to be pulled up and
Right. Yep. So there's a couple go-to vests that I have for the riders that are really short torsoed and really long leg, great riders build. And I have a body protector company that they'll actually custom make to measure if they have to. They're off the rack, but if I say, hey, here are the client specific measurements, can you shave a row off of the foam, they'll do it. So it's those types of relationships that I've really worked to cultivate with different manufacturers, so that it's pretty rare that I have to tell a client I can't find something that'll fit you.
Okay. All right. Somebody says you can get an air vest for C as well.
Yeah, exactly. Multi-purpose, right?
Yeah. All right. So let's start talking about the, how would one go about choosing, or how do we measure, how do we fit for an air vest? How do we do this?
Yep. Great question. So again, different ones fit different body types differently. And so I've actually created a video that we've got linked on our website, and it's on our YouTube channel as well. And I can actually share this with you if you want to share with the community.
Let me make you co-host so that you can share that.
Yeah,
because then we can talk about it as we go through.
Let me pull it up. Let's just see how good I am at multitasking here, but it goes into the details of what you're wanting to measure, how you should be measuring, and you want to get as specific as you can with those measurements, because again, the better job that you do of measuring, the better we're going to be able to fit you. And we do a lot of virtual measurement, where clients will send us the measurements and we're making recommendations on, products, brands, models, things like that. So in other words,
I don't have to go down to North Carolina and go to your shop.
I mean, I'd love to see you face to face. And if you can get to us, then that's fantastic. But if you can't, we spend quite a bit of time in Zoom meetings or Google Meet or whatever the case may be, where we talk about, because we're really wanting to have consultations with people, because we have people that will call and say, I have a medical condition, and that's something that we want to take into account when we're making a product recommendation. If I've got a client that maybe has any sort of a bone density disorder, I want to know about that when I'm doing an air vest fitting, because that might change the recommendation that I make. If I have somebody that has an implanted cardiac device, that might change a recommendation I make, because one of the vests that I carry has a magnet in it. It's a really small magnet. It's far from your heart, but
it's still a magnet.
It's still something that goes into my thought process. So I like to have those conversations. And if we're doing a video call, if somebody happens to have their tape measure with them, then we'll walk through the measuring process, and I can actually be looking at different options while we're in the call. But if not, then we'll just share this webpage, because there's a pretty extensive video of me doing a measuring session with someone, showing where are you measuring, how are you measuring, but also showing how do you want an air vest to fit once you receive it? What are the things that you're looking for to show that it does fit? And what are the things that you're looking for that might indicate that it doesn't fit? Because if an air vest doesn't fit, you're actually introducing risk, and you can create injury with an air vest if it doesn't fit properly. Good analogy is a car airbag. Sometimes we know a car airbag can cause injury. Generally, we know that they reduce the rate of injury way more than they cause it. So we would never take an airbag out of a car. And I personally think of an equestrian airbag the same way, but you just have to know that it's not a perfect product and there is risk involved in using them.
Right. But there's also I'm sure that there's a lot of research going into the benefit of wearing an air vest.
There is. So Virginia Tech is actually working on doing a study now that they have launched the first round, or I should say completed the first round of their helmet study, and now are continuing the helmet study. So the goal of their helmet study is that they'll continuously test all ASTM helmets. So that'll be ongoing for them. But now they're working on formulating a body protection study. So I'm very excited about that because, you know, we definitely get feedback and questions that there isn't a lot of data around body protectors and air vests, and that is true. There's more than people realize, and I've tried to scour what is out there, and that again is available on my website. There's a whole section of research and studies, but a lot of that research and studies is from the motorcycle world. There is some that's specific to horses. There's a study that has been cited extensively that created a lot of confusion as to what the data actually indicated, and the authors had to come back and clarify some things. So long story short, having the Virginia Tech study, I think, will be super helpful to have kind of a peer-to-peer study, if you will, comparing the different vests.
I would assume that any recognized event has to report the number of injuries and whether or not somebody was wearing body protection or an air vest to some central organization.
I think it's a little bit of a gray area as to what and how things are reported. I think that can get cleaned up just a little bit. So for example, you know, what's required in terms of what gets worn is you must wear a body protector. Doesn't have to be certified. So, you know, there's not like really a minimum requirement. So it's, from a data collection perspective, it's not very easy right now to say, okay, the equipment met this and that standard, and therefore this was the efficacy of it, and so on and so forth. So it's a little bit challenging right now.
Yeah, because, you know, you'd figure that just the anecdotal evidence from all the events that we have, if they could just record that what the rider was wearing at the, you know, if they had an accident, and
Yeah.
obviously you're not going to record everybody, because if they don't have an accident, we haven't tested it, right?
Right.
I mean, in a sense, but what they were wearing and what the accident was and that sort of thing. I somehow assumed, I guess wrongly, that kind of data was being collected. Or maybe it's being collected, but not efficiently and effectively.
I think there's always room to look at data in different ways.
Yes.
So,
oh yeah. No, I did stats in college and it was like, oh, I hated it. Oh.
yeah.
Oh. One of the things I found is that you could fudge the data to make it say what you wanted, and that was kind of my perception when I obviously that, you know.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons I was like, I'm out of research.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's so hard, especially, you know, especially like with eventing, for example, is there's so many variables. Like if you wanted to do a real study, you know, how do you have a control group?
Yeah.
And you know, how do you control for weather? How do you control for experience? I mean, just look at the conversation that we're having around, you know, minimum eligibility requirements and how challenging that is. There's just so many different variables to consider when you're trying to figure out like what was a determining factor in safety. And, you know, there's just not one right answer. So we continuously learn, we do as much as we can, you know, and use as much information as we can to just keep making things better.
Well, and, you know, like I have a dear friend that if she hadn't had an air vest on, she probably would have been dead. You know, the horse just, we don't know what happened. The horse just was at the trailer and just exploded, whether it was a bee or whatever, but she got launched, you know, and this was a quiet horse. It wasn't like a fractious horse. And,
right.
You know, the doctor said the air vest saved her life.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think anecdotally we can say that we know that these kinds of protections are going to help, and this is great that VTech is going to do research, because then that will back it up with data that's in a controlled environment with controls. And that's, you know, and then there's always reality, right? I mean, you can have all the controls and all the data you want.
Exactly.
Like the reality is. So let's talk about the types of air vests available and what are some of the options, or maybe because we can go and look at how to measure on your website. So let's talk about, like, there's we're not going to talk about price just yet because we're thinking more about safety. And I know that you've already indicated that you went overkill and got like the 4-star.
I got like everything.
Okay, so what are what's the basic air vest, and then how do we go from there?
Yep. So basic is in the eye of the beholder, right? So if you're eventing, for sure you need what we call the base layer. And my husband is just coming in from a run, so he's going to run behind me real quick, but hi. But so you need your base layer, your foundation layer, which is going to be your body protector. And you've got a whole bunch of different options there. My recommendation in the US is at a minimum to have something that is ASTM certified. Even better if you have something that is Beta level 3. That is my personal preference, but certainly the more advanced that you're going, the Beta level 3 becomes more of a stringent recommendation, if you will. If you're going,
so let's kind of talk, what does Beta level 3 mean?
So Beta is the British Equestrian Trade Association, and they have a rating system that is a bit more stringent than the American rating system, which is ASTM.
Okay.
And as I mentioned previously, what the USEA requires is just that you're wearing a body protector when you go cross country. They're not requiring that it's actually certified. I strongly recommend that you're wearing something certified.
So when it's certified, it's been put through some kind of a test.
Exactly. It's been put through some testing, and it's constructed in a certain way, so on and so forth. So
is there a 1 and 2, or is there just 3?
There is a 1 and 2, but the 1 and 2, tend to be for different disciplines and things like that. So you're not going to see 1 and 2 very often in eventing. You typically just either you're going to see ASTM or you're going to see Beta level 3. So that's what you're going to look for in your base layer. And then you're going to see your air vest. And for your air vest, generally, you're going to see a separate piece. And the rule of thumb is that you can layer any air vest over any body protector.
So do you always have to wear a body protector under an air vest?
So great question. Depends on the type of air vest.
Okay.
So until, let's say, the last handful of years, pretty much most of the air vests that were on the market were really designed to be worn over a body protector. That's how they were fitted. Okay. And as I mentioned, fit is important, and the way that they were designed to, stay on your body, inflate, so on and so forth, that was based on how they fit. So the ones that I call kind of the traditional style of air vest, so your .2s, a couple of the models of the Hit Airs, some of the models of the Helites, they are what I call the traditional style, and they were designed to be worn over a body protector, not really designed to be worn alone. Especially as the hunter jumper community started getting more interested in wearing air vests, this is kind of a new thing. They're a little bit more focused on the aesthetic things. They're being judged on their position, posture. So they were wanting something that was a bit more streamlined. So you saw a bunch of new products being introduced to the market that did not require the use of a body protector underneath. That was just a straight, very streamlined air vest that looks just like a sleeveless vest. Now, you can wear those over a body protector. You have to size them accordingly, but usually an eventing client of mine is wearing a traditional air vest over a body protector, and my hunter jumper or dressage clients are wearing what we call a low profile air vest on its own. And so I have, pretty distinct clientele. Every once in a while, there's some crossover. My hunt field clients will have some crossover. There used to be a hybrid market, and that was actually my first vest, was a hybrid. And when I say a hybrid, it was that you had both pieces together, and either they were integrated fully, you couldn't separate them, or they in some way, shape, or form were attached to each other, but you could separate them. But they were meant to be used together kind of in a more semi-permanent form. So as I mentioned, you can layer any ear vest over any body protector, but in the original hybrids, they were kind of designed to go together, if you will.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking about, if when it's hot and you have a body protector and a vest,
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, doesn't matter if you're hot if you have a broken neck, but yeah, it's still a lot,
yes.
So yeah.
I'm just thinking about, like, say an endurance rider is going to be riding for hours.
Yeah, it's,
the body protector and the air vest is gonna,
right.
And then you're in any kind of warm weather.
It's a lot. So, and certainly these manufacturers are doing as much as they can to make these products as lightweight and as breathable as possible. But I'm really upfront with my clients. You're covered in a block of foam and plastic tubing. It is what it is, but it's better than having a broken neck. So it's context. Now, very interestingly, in the past 6 months, we have seen a new type of hybrid come onto the market, because the old hybrids are no longer being manufactured. So the old hybrids, like I said, body protector, air vest on top, integrated in some way, shape, or form. Free Jump has now introduced a new hybrid that is pretty revolutionary in that the air vest is the inner layer, and it's got a beta level 3 body protector on top.
Oh, wow. That's kind of interesting.
It's really interesting because if you think about it, part of what the air vest buys you is spinal channel stabilization, because you have air chambers on either side of your spine, and you lose a little bit of that benefit if it's outside of the foam body protector. But if it's inside, you're maximizing that still.
Kind of like making a turtle shell.
Yeah. And the other nice thing about it is if you get stepped on or studded or kicked, that's impacting your foam vest and not damaging
that can get
your air chamber, etc. So there's a whole bunch of benefits to kind of, flipping the script as they've done in changing the layers. And in doing that, they've actually been able to reduce the amount of airfill needed to get the same level of protection out of the air chamber. So smaller canister. And even though the pieces are together and you can't separate them, because the canister sits on the outside and you've got the body protector on the outside, if you decide that you don't want to use the air piece of it, maybe you're riding a young horse and you feel like you're going to potentially need to do an emergency dismount, there's no risk in you deciding not to clip in and not use the air vest portion of it. Whereas if you're wearing an air vest by itself, normally we don't want you not clipping in, because falling on an uninflated trigger and air canister introduces risk. But in this one, you wouldn't have any risk because you're actually falling on the foam. So it's a really interesting concept. It's just come out. We're seeing a lot of upper level riders already getting into them. We're getting really good feedback. It's one of the first really revolutionary changes that I've seen in a while for eventing equipment. So I'm pretty excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. So how long has it been on the market?
Let's see. We got our first samples about 6 months ago. We started shipping our first live product about 2 months ago, and we'll have them at Land Rover in the booth. So,
okay. So really quite new, but where are they coming from? What, from the US?
So they're coming from Free Jump, and they're manufactured in France. So it is the first vest that first of all, so it's the first hybrid, as I mentioned, that the air chamber is on the inside. First eventing style vest that the air vest is certified to the French NFS testing norm. And the body protector is Beta level 3.
So you got your maximum standards with a new design.
Yeah, so to be clear, that Aerovest norm, it's a testing norm. I wouldn't call it a certification just yet. We're still working on trying to get a harmonized testing certification for the Airvest. We don't have it yet, but that's the closest thing that we've currently got.
Wow. So how many brands are there on the market at this point?
Oh gosh, let's see. Hit Air, Point 2, Free Jump, Helite, Cavalleria Toscana, Seaver, Penelope, Horse Pilot. I mean, at least 10, 12, 15. I mean, there's a lot.
Wow.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Because I can remember, I'm just thinking back. Okay. I can remember I was at the Pony Club annual meeting in Florida, which I can't tell you what year that was now. It was a while ago. And in this little alcove, they had an air vest there, and they would pop that damn thing. And it sounded like a gun going off. And I was so close to it. It was like,
yeah,
my poor booth assistant was not happy.
My dog hates it when I do demos because he's like so close to it and I'm always inside. Yeah, I mean, it's great because there are a lot of options. There are also drawbacks to having a lot of options if you don't know what to look for. So we do have a blog post that kind of lists out a bunch of questions that you might want to ask your retailer. Because again, it's safety equipment, kind of like a helmet. You want your helmet fitter to know what they're doing when they're fitting a helmet. Same thing with an air vest, same thing with a body protector.
Right.
You want to make sure you're getting fitted correctly. So you should let your fitter know if you have a medical condition that might be of concern for an air vest.
Are they sold in just tack shops, or are they sold in specific? I mean, is this
they're very commonly sold. So that's great that they're becoming more accessible. But my big thing is I want for clients to really arm themselves with the questions that they should be asking so that they are able to make an informed decision for themselves.
Well, I hate to say it, but this reminds me of saddles. That the person in the saddle shop may not know all that much. And so they're just going to sell you what they have.
Yep.
As opposed to actually fitting you for the saddle that's right for you and your horse. And I'm starting to hear this, especially with that many brands, which I didn't realize there were that many brands.
Yes.
If you're not familiar with all the brands and how to properly fit, then if you just have 2 brands in the store, you're going to fit A or B to the person.
Right. Well, and that's exactly why we made the decision to carry as many as we do, because we didn't want to be in that position personally. And frankly, if we don't carry it, it's because we've made a really specific decision not to carry it. There is some reason why we either decided never to bring it in or to stop carrying it for some reason.
Where are most of them made?
Interestingly, most of them are made in France.
Really?
And as popular and as widespread as they're becoming, the majority of them are made like by hand in really small, like in rooms that are not big. So, maybe the outer textile might be made in Asia in some cases, but then these small little 2 or 3 person, rooms, they'll get the outer textile. They're the ones that are cutting the tubing, inserting the tubing, soldering the triggers, doing the quality testing. Every single vest on the vest that we carry get test inflated before they get shipped. They get measured to make sure the triggers are the appropriate weight setting before they deploy. I mean, every single vest has data behind it. They all have serial numbers so we can track back to the individual test before it's shipped. I mean, it's pretty sophisticated to see. So, you know, when I see somebody, it's like, oh, well, this vest is made in Asia. I'm like, really? Have you been to the factory? Because I've been to the factory and I wasn't in Asia.
Yeah, because I mean, the quality control on these things has got to be high, right? Because if the quality control isn't there, you could have a faulty vest that when you need it, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And that's the thing. It is a mechanical item and it does happen. It's awful. It's the worst thing in the world to get a phone call from a client, my vest didn't work. And I'll be really honest, 9.9 times out of 10, when I get that phone call and we go through a troubleshooting session, it's because a trigger was not reset correctly.
So tell us a little bit about, do they all work on a canister?
They do. They
Okay.
all work on a canister and they are all tethered, meaning that in some way, shape, or form, you are connected to your saddle via a saddle strap. And for the vest to deploy, it requires for you to separate from your horse. So that means that if you have the type of fall where your horse is falling and you are falling with it and the separation is not happening, or it's not happening until your horse gets up, your horse is like, your vest isn't going off, or it's not going off until your horse gets up. So in that kind of fall, your vest is useless, quite frankly.
The body protector is somewhat useful, but
the body protector is useful in that situation. And that is why for eventing, the body protector is required, because unfortunately in eventing, we do have those incidents of rotational falls that are more frequent than we see in other disciplines.
Right.
So, you know, it's important to know that that separation is the first step in a chain of events that has to occur in order for your air vest to go off. So you have a gas canister that is filled with compressed CO2. And basically what happens is you have a trigger and there's a key ball in a trigger that is holding a spring down. And above that key ball is a piston. And when you have that separation, your lanyard is staying attached to your saddle and it's pulling the key ball out. And when the key ball comes out, the spring shoots up, hits your piston, piston shoots up, pierces your gas cartridge, and that's what inflates your vest.
And that all happens in how much time?
Under 0.2 seconds. So really fast.
It's really fast.
So this is the other thing that's really important, is the height of the animal that you're riding is important, because if you're riding something short, you have less time for your vest to trigger and fully inflate before you hit the ground.
Right.
Right. So your retailer should be asking you, how tall is the animal you're riding? Because if the answer is I'm riding, you know, or if you're doing a fitting for a kid on a pony, and the answer is I'm riding a 12-hand pony,
It's
probably not a great idea. Or you need to go into a vest that offers a pony size lanyard.
Ah, okay.
Or if you're riding something that's 15.2, your retailer needs to be explaining how to adjust your saddle strap so that it's shorter, so that your vest triggers faster.
Right.
So these are all the things that your retailer should be talking about.
Do you have a list of those things on your website? Is that?
Yes. Yes. So if you go to the FAQ section on the website, there's a blog page. And again, let me see if I can multitask here.
I was going to say, let's just,
let's see here. Equestrian safety blog. Let's see. Here it is. So I'm going to pop this up. So there's a bunch of blog posts here, but one of them is like the list of questions to ask your retailer. There's a blog post in there about like, what is better, an air vest or a body protector? And it kind of goes into the differences between the two. The YouTube channel, which is linked at the top of our website, that's really good because it goes, there's a video there about some of like the biggest myths about air vests. Hint, hint, the biggest myth is that my horse is going to spook. Hint, hint.
Well,
probably.
Yeah, I mean, if you're already falling, who cares if he spooks, because you're
Thank you.
already leaving your horse.
That's my response too.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And
If
let's
it's
just hope he
hitting you-
spooks in the opposite direction, okay?
Exactly.
You're,
It's probably already spooked, and that's why you're falling off.
Yeah.
But if you're already falling, who cares? But truth be told, it's pretty rare that they spook. Now, I can't promise you that they're not going to spook, and your horse might just be the jerk that, you know, is going to make a liar out of me. But
and I'm just going to pop this up visually for anybody that's watching this webinar later, so they can see this is your YouTube channel with your different videos here, how to measure, how to ride. And then the website should be right there. So if anybody's looking for that.
Exactly. And I'll give you guys, if you like little treasure hunts. So as I mentioned, I ride with Doug Payne, and I like to give him a hard time. And at Land Rover this year in the 4-star, he fell off of Star Witness. Wearing an air vest. And that mare happens to be very sound sensitive, but also very food motivated. And if you really want to know what a horse's reaction is to the noise of an air vest going off, go on TikTok and just search for Doug Payne Star Witness, and you'll get to watch the video of him falling off, and you'll see what her reaction is.
Awesome. All right. And so here are some of your blog posts. I found them just so that people can see that what they're looking for, because sometimes it's like you're not sure where, and I was like, where do I find that? There's user guides. Great.
Yep. And I love talking to people. Like I said, first and foremost, what we do is provide a service. Yes, I'm a retailer, but more than anything, I'm an educator. So I want people to be safe. So if anybody has a question, even if that means that you've got another tack shop in your backyard and you're getting ready to go, but you want to arm yourself, or you've gone to your tack shop and you have questions as a result, please shoot me an email, give me a call. We can do a virtual session. You know, I'm happy to spend the time. My goal is that you are doing what you need to do to stay safe in the saddle so that you can ride for as long as possible. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram as well. You know, I'm way happier answering questions that are preventive questions versus questions that are, I hurt myself and I don't want to do it again.
Right. No, I totally hear you. So let's talk price, just so that we have that conversation. What is kind of the average cost of an air vest?
So average cost of an air vest. So your low profiles are going to start around $755 and are going to go, your top end is going to be at about $899. And then your eventing style, your traditional style are going to start in the high 5s on average and are going to end in the low 6s. So they're going to be a little bit more budget friendly. We do offer, if you're buying through our website, we do offer like these programs where you can split into 4 payments. So that makes it a little bit easier. I will say, like, body protectors, I'm a bit more comfortable with people buying body protectors secondhand. We do have a blog post for how to look, you know, what do you look for to know if a body protector is in its useful life or outside of it. An air vest, I'm a bit more hesitant about buying secondhand. I always recommend, you know, if you're on a budget and you're thinking of doing that, you really should be sending it to the manufacturer for inspection, because the worst thing in the world is to be flying through the air expecting it to trigger and then it doesn't, and you've just bought it. And frankly, by the time that you send it for inspection, you've basically spent the money to buy a new one. So that I'm a little, because it's mechanical, I'm a little more hesitant, and it's better.
How durable are they? Say you come off, you know, a couple of times. Are they durable?
Yeah, they are durable. I mean, if you get drug across pavement, the low profiles, the outer shells are, you know, the fabric isn't quite as rugged as the more traditional ones, because the traditional ones were designed for motorcycle riders and eventers to get drug across tables. So, you know, they're expecting a little bit more wear and tear. So it really depends on your fall scenario. But I mean, I see plenty of hunter jumper and dressage riders get flung against different things and bounce right back up, and they're just fine. They really, if they're treated under normal wear conditions, you should just be able to reset your trigger, put in a new canister, and go on your merry way.
How much are canisters?
So canisters, depending on, where you're getting them, are going to range anywhere from $32 to $55.
Okay. And then the new vests that are coming out with the shell on the outside, I would assume that the air vest is going to be a lot more durable.
Yes.
Because it's protected. What's the what do those run?
So those are running 1,200 right now. So it's really buying two pieces separately. It's the same price as, you're buying two pieces essentially. Yep, exactly.
Wow. And so average lifespan.
So it's very similar to a helmet. Generally, we say 3 to 5 years. Very much depends on how often you're riding. So if you're riding 8 horses a day in it, 6 days a week, not going to last as long. Your body, sweat, things like that are going to break down the materials just like it does with your helmet. So if you're a sweater, stuff is going to last not as long as if you're not. How you take care of it is going to make a difference.
Does climate have an influence?
Climate does have an influence. Hot and humid is generally not as good as cold and dry. Again, especially with the increased rate of adoption that we're seeing lately, it means that there's more investment. And so that means we're seeing innovation. And what I am encouraged about is that we might actually now be seeing a life cycle of 3 to 5 years, being that we have new and better technology at the end of that life cycle, rather than, okay, your equipment's dead because you've worn through it. Now it's, hey, there's something, there's a new iPhone on the market. There's a new air vest on the market that's got some really fantastic new bells and whistles that are, head and shoulders better than the last generation.
But are there different vests that cover different, are there some that have more of a neck protection, or?
Generally, they're covering the same parts of your body. Different companies have different philosophies on how they protect. So, if you talk to one company, their neck inflation might go, straight up against the back of the neck, whereas another one will go out more diagonally. And if you ask them why, they'll be like, well, our philosophy is we want for the neck to have more room to move because the neck was designed to absorb some level of shock and trauma. And if you have too much rigidity in the neck, then you're introducing a risk for a different type of injury. And so it's what is the sweet spot in that. And so different companies, they're engineers, they're biomedical engineers, they're consulting physicians. They will have different philosophies on that, if they're coming from a motorcycle background or if they're coming from an equestrian background. It all looks a bit different. And that's where it goes back to really asking the right questions so that you can make an informed decision for yourself. And as you can imagine, I get a lot of clients that have had, a neck or a back injury, and they're under the care of, a neurologist or a neurosurgeon. And in those cases, I'll be like, well, let's ask your doctor, do they want more rigidity around your neck? Less? Let's send them some design specs and, ask them, let's send them some videos of some air vest inflating so that they can make the decision. Cause I definitely do not want to be making that decision.
Nope.
My husband's a lawyer. He might kill me. That would be bad for him.
Yeah, that'd be bad. Don't want to go there. Yeah, it's so this is a lot of information for those people that are considering air vests. So what is, if you're somebody that's riding and is considering an air vest, what are the top 3 considerations they should have?
So top 3 considerations, I would say, one, this is going to sound funny, but think about how you like things to fit. Because with so many of them on the market at this point, we have an entire spectrum of how they feel. So if I have a client that says to me, I like a really snug fit, I kind of like feeling like I'm being squeezed. I like the thunder shirt feeling. Then that kind of leads me towards a particular end of the spectrum versus a more relaxed fit leads me to a different end. So that is actually really important. And it's surprising how many clients aren't really sure about that question. And that leads us into a whole bunch of other things, including like, what part of the country do you live in? Because I have to account for the clothing that you wear in the winter and in the summer, because that all has to work within things as well. So how you like your equipment to feel on your body is actually really important, and you need to give that some thought as well. Think about how and when you want to use it. For me, this is a no-brainer. I don't get on a horse for any purpose without a vest on. But a lot of people, they're like, am I only going to use it when I'm at home? Or am I only going to use it when I'm showing? Or am I only going to use it when I'm jumping? Because the type of vest recommendation may very well change depending on how you're going to use it. And the third thing is, think of any question that you have about the vest, and there is no stupid question. If you don't ask the question, that's the stupid question. Because I get a lot of people that call me after the fact and they're like, oh yeah, I had that question, but I thought it was stupid and I didn't ask it. And now they've got like a broken trigger or, something of that nature. So all of the things that you wanted to know and were unsure of, just don't be afraid to ask, and don't rely on internet stories to answer those questions. Reach out to me. I'm happy to answer. I will never tell you it's a dumb question, because again, there's no such thing. Again, it's mechanical. Things can go wrong. If you ask the question, it prevents things from going wrong.
Well, what I find so often with something new like that is I'm not even sure what question to ask. That's where I get stuck, is like, afterward I'm like, oh, that would have been a question I could have asked, but I didn't know to ask that question beforehand.
Well, and even saying, even because I'll get a lot of clients who will be like, I got to make this quick. And I'm like, nah. But even giving me the time to say, what is the question that I should be asking, and giving me the space to be like, oh, okay, you have time. These are, the things that.
So don't snap by.
Yeah, don't give yourself the time. Like, for example, Michelle, my try-on store manager, she like never ceases to amaze me, because there can be like 30 people in the store pulling stuff off racks like crazy, and she's selling an air vest, and she just like blocks everybody out. And it doesn't matter what's going on. She's telling you and showing you how to put a saddle strap on, and telling you how to adjust it, and showing you how to reset. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on. She's going through every single little step, and she zones everybody else out. It doesn't matter what's going on. And that's the experience that we want people to have. And so giving us the time to give you that experience is really important.
Yeah, because how many first-time buyers, what's your percentage of first-time versus return buyers?
I mean, it's still a lot. Like, we're really lucky at this point to have a lot of return buyers. Again, more so because new technology is coming out, or somebody has just gotten a vest like so stinky that it's time for a new one. You can clean them. There's a YouTube video. Okay. But we're still like, it's so encouraging to me, because last year, at the beginning of last year, there was a lot of discussion, oh, are they going to make this mandatory? It's going to be so awful if they make this mandatory. This was more so like on the hunter jumper side, but even USEA, there was a little discussion, do we make air vest mandatory? And even as a retailer, I was like, I really would hope that they don't, because we're seeing really good organic adoption. People are making the choice. it's not stigmatized anymore. People are seeing them work, they're seeing the judges advocating for them, things like that. We're seeing them in the dressage arena, like we're seeing them everywhere now. So that's been great, is we're seeing kids coming up with their parents. We're seeing, older people, we're seeing, people my age, really everybody coming and making that choice for themselves. So we're still seeing a lot of first-time buyers, which is great.
Right. But it sounds like there's becoming more and more awareness about the air vest and the industry. Because I can remember seeing the first ones and I was like, hey, like, okay. I was like, all right, I'm not sure what that is exactly, but
yeah.
And there is that piece of aesthetics that, if it looks too weird, of course, people are,
I mean, we're still in an aesthetic sport, there's just no way around it. And so like when we make a recommendation, typically I try to give everybody a choice of at least 2 vests. And I tell people, I'm like, look, you can take one of my recommendations, or you can tell me to pound sand. I'm at least giving you a recommendation. And I'm like, if I'm giving you 2 or, maybe 3 or 4 within that, you're probably making an aesthetic choice. But if you're making a choice within my recommendation, then you're still making a safe choice.
Right. Well, this has been a lot of information. I'm really glad to know that there's a blog post out there on your website that we can go and read about fitting and that sort of thing. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about air vests, because it's as we keep evolving in our industry. And I think we're in a really interesting time where we're starting to let go of some of the stigma of things and recognize, okay, look, it's not, like getting rid of top hats in the dressage arena, that's been a big one, but we can evolve. Maybe we'll get some color back. We're starting to get a little color in.
We're starting to get color. I have to say, we just got some lavender breeches into the booth this week, and they are to die for. And
oh, really?
Oh my God, to die for. And I'm so excited about them, and they've been flying. So I'm loving seeing some of the changes. But I'm just thrilled to be able to participate in things like this. I think getting
you look back at the 1700s and they had, really flash.
I want to know who came up with white to go cross country, because that
white at all.
I'm sorry. So, which, by the way, at least we have somebody that has developed waterproof breeches that we had a lot of fun with a video this past weekend where we were pouring coffee and soda and red wine on somebody just to show that you can wipe it right off. For my event riders out there that fall in the water sometimes, check those out. They'll be at Land Rover too. But again, thank you so much for doing stuff like this and inviting me, because I think just getting the word out, and again, giving people permission to ask the questions for themselves, and giving me the platform to answer the questions and reach out to more people. And literally, people, use the contact form on the website, text me, call me if you have questions.
Bite. She's really friendly.
Happy to help. Totally friendly. And I'll be at Upperville again this year, and we're traveling all over the up and down the East Coast. So happy to help however we can.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This has been really, really helpful and
super fun. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. All right, everybody. Just remember, you can find this and all the other webinars on the Surefoot Equine YouTube channel. And there's lots of playlists there. So if you're looking for a specific topic, go check out the playlist, because once somebody does 3 webinars, they get a playlist. So yeah, you got 2 more
goals.
All right. Thanks so much, Catherine. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.